And welcome in. It's the All-22 as the Blue Devils return home this week to take on Virginia. It's the ACC opener. David Shoemate alongside Dave Harding. Jacob Monk with us as well this week. Starting center, starting guard, whatever you like, whatever you need up front, right, Jacob? Obviously a captain for the team. Appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you having me.
So let's start with some of the statistics that have really been eye-popping this year for the offense. You look at what the line has done. Let's start pass protect first, and Dave's going to do more of this than I can because he played the position. I look like I could, but he's actually played the position.
We all appreciate the finer things in life, though. That's the most important. We're linemen at heart.
Always.
Right?
Always.
David has been adopted into the club.
Oh, yeah.
But only 4 sacks given up. I mean, that's something to be proud of for a line. 4 games in the books. What's been working in the pass protect?
It's just something that we really pride ourselves on is, protecting Riley and whoever's back there each and every day. And also, the running backs do a great job coming in, help picking up blitzes and stuff. And Riley's just really smart with the ball, getting the ball out of his hands. He does a great job in making us look good. So, yeah.
From a schematic standpoint, are there major differences that were put into place this year that have helped you in protecting Riley a little bit more? One of the things that I've seen, like the 3-on-2 guard, that open guard that has the center working to their side, going to take a rib shot maybe on the defensive end when you're free, being aggressive in pass pro, not passive. With Adam Cushing, the offensive line coach, coming in, have you felt there be some of those big shifts that have ended up making a difference in the passing game?
Yeah, I feel like, we've just been taught that, like you said, pass pro is not passive here. We teach aggressiveness, and no matter if it's run game, pass game, or anything, if you're not blocking anyone, you're wrong. So, you always need to be blocking someone, be touching someone when the play is going on or when it's over.
Well, that's been on it. In the run game, things are going pretty well as well. A little more than 5 yards a carry for the offense as a whole. We call the game here on the radio. Dave is always calling for run plays. So what is it about offensive linemen that you guys always want to jump off the ball and hit somebody when you know a run play's coming?
Yeah, we love, seeing Riley pass the ball, but, I think we would all of us vote for run the ball. It could be 3rd and 20, we want to run the ball. That's just our mindset up front. And I feel like that we have great running backs, with Jordan and Jalen and, Jaquez. And we have some really talented freshmen, too, that can play. So, it's just our mentality is, attack each and every play and, want to run the ball.
Are you aware, you mentioned talented running backs, they all seem to, have kind of their own strengths and bring a certain aspect to the game. When you're in, are you always aware of who's back there at running back?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we'll get a play call, just look back, and I'm like, all right, that's Jordan. Or like I'll just be blocking someone, I'll see, Jalen run by me. I'm like, all right, Jalen's in. So yeah. It's nice to have those guys, they do a lot for us.
Well, the calendar moves quickly. It's going to be October when you guys play Virginia. The way the schedule laid out, 4 non-conference games to start it. You guys are 3-1. Close game at Kansas came up a little bit short. When you peel back and look at non-con as a whole, I remember over the summer watching practice, even being at spring ball a little bit, there was so much new. It felt like everyone was getting to know each other, whether that be the coaching staff, some of the grad transfers that came in along the offensive line. It was kind of an open question what this was going to look like. But, man, 3-1 in non-conference play, I think that speaks pretty well to what you guys have done the last month or so. From your perspective, takeaways from non-conference play, but maybe more so, where is this team now in terms of improvement, being better than even where you were going into the game against Temple?
We've definitely improved. I think we've improved week to week. But I think, what is interesting about this team is we've still not played our best ball yet, We've still not put together a great 60 minutes, We might come out to a fast start and then, slow down later on. Or, start out slow and then, struggle or pick it up later on. So I think we really are, growing each and every day. Still working on bits and pieces every day, but I think, we're a really talented team and a really talented offense that is getting better each and every day.
To expand on that a little bit, as a team captain, when you're on the sideline and you're feeling maybe a lapse in focus or the shift of momentum during a game, how do you handle that as somebody who is obviously a leader but has played a lot of football. Are you vocally mentioning, hey, guys, we've got to do better here? Is it something that you just kind of let take its course and address during the week in practice? What kind of walk us through what your actions look like when you feel a specific change in the demeanor or the overall flow of a game offensively?
I'd say my main go-to thing is looking at people's eyes. You know, I look in their eyes to see where their focus level is. If they, they're ready to go attack, or they're feeling lackadaisical, and I'll look at their eyes. If they're not in it completely, I'll bring the offense together and give them a little talk. We need to pick it up right now. But yeah, that's my main thing, I would say.
What do Shoemate's eyes look like right now? Is he ready, or is he kind of lackadaisical?
He's all right.
I don't know, man.
Right. Just got moved to the tight end room.
Maybe worse, the D-line room.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe I'll be a dirt devil down there. We're going to talk about that nickname here in a little bit. Graham was telling me a little bit about it. But I want to get technical with the two of you. And Dave, you can probably steer into this because, to the novice, you got 5 guys up front, offensive linemen. It seems like, moving from guard to center, outside to tackle isn't that big of a deal. Just blocking somebody else. Blocking is blocking. But obviously you've played at guard and now done some center and played some guard as well this season. But that is not a subtle thing, all the different things that go into that. Dave, kind of tee it up for us, how impressed you are with how smoothly that has gone.
Yeah, the flexibility, not just with your transition to center, but then now to be able to bounce back and forth, which we can talk about in a little bit, within the same game, playing center, guard, moving all over the place. I guess what I'd first like to know is what has been instrumental in your ability to move inside and, snapping the ball, and knock on wood, being able to do so consistently, not something that should be taken for granted. And is it something you had worked on before, kind of secretly? Is it something you kind of welcomed as part of a challenge? How were you able to do it so effectively?
Really, it was not effective early on.
Okay.
In training camp,
Yeah.
there was really a lot of bad snaps, and I'd just commend Jordan Moore and Riley Leonard getting with me in the hotel, before we go to sleep, getting like 30 minutes of snaps in, right outside of our room. So
During training camp?
During training camp, and extra snaps during the summer and all, and it's just gotten to the point where it's second nature at this point. Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah, exactly. Always got to knock on wood there. I've noticed your technique is a little bit different too. You grab the football kind of from the nose. Is that true? And where'd that come from?
For me, it's I've never played center before,
Yeah.
so I could dead ball snap it or spiral snap it.
Yeah.
And I tried both, but I think our quarterbacks like the dead ball snap better. Just from the fact that they can look it in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. I mean, it's such a unique talent to have, and the fact that you can do both, and to hear that a lot of your decisions predicated on what the quarterback likes is so interesting. So many variables that go into playing that position. If you could be honest, I mean, I know we briefly talked about playing both, and the fact that you're able to do so in the midst of a game. Do you have a preference? Like, center was my least favorite position to play because you got to worry about the snap, and then you've got somebody on you right away. At least guard, you've got some breathing room, can get your second step down and kind of get into a block a little bit more. If you could choose, where are you playing?
It doesn't matter, but I do like center a lot. Yeah, just controlling, I guess, the blocking scheme. I feel like I like that challenge of protecting our quarterback and open up running lanes. And our line does a great job of pointing out who to block, helping me out too, and running backs as well in pass pro. So, yep.
Very cool.
We obviously know one of the mantras for this team is the grind and embracing the grind. And you talking about working for 30 minutes when you don't have to in the hotel working on snaps. I see you guys after practice all the time. Kevin Johns has told us you're like the ultimate lead by example guy where wherever the play is, if it's 20 yards downfield or just in front, you're the first guy to the ball. Being a captain, you'd look for stuff like that. But for this team, and we've talked with Coach Elko about it quite a bit, that, you can hope for things to happen or you can prepare for things to happen. It feels like you guys have embraced that. What's happened so far? Taking care of the football, what you guys have been able to do offensively. We mentioned the low sack numbers. they aren't accidents. You guys have practiced and prepared for these things. They aren't just happening. You guys have made them occur. Take us through what the summer has been like and maybe the spring with this new staff and changing the mindset and the work that's gone in that has spelled its way into a 3-1 start.
Yeah, we just really this offseason was all about work. We know that it's not going to automatically give us wins, but it's going to put us in a position to win. So I feel like we all just embrace that mindset that we have to bring it each and every day. 6 a.m. in the morning, we don't want to run from the indoor back in here back to the indoor. We don't want to do all that running. We don't want to do all that lifting. We don't want to be on the track running, but it is what it is. Suck it up, go do it. And I feel like that's just our mindset that even now, yeah, we did all that work, but that's not going to give us those wins. We still have to bring it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that's just what we've embraced as this program.
Yeah, have you felt like against Northwestern, for instance? I know there was a big challenge of are you who's going to be the more physical team? People had talked a lot about their physicality, and that was mentioned all in the week leading up to it. When you start and go play the game, can you feel the difference in your body, the strength and conditioning, all that hard work, and feel that paying off on the field? Like, is that something that you can consciously notice as you're out conducting what you're supposed to do during a game?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like when it got down, in the end of Northwestern game, I just knew that we were going to win. I knew that in the end of games, we put ourselves in a great position to leap forward and win. After I told my dad after the Northwestern game, I could go out there and play another game right now.
Wow.
I feel that good.
Yeah.
That's all credit to Coach Feely. The work that we've done this summer on the track, in the weight room. He's calloused our bodies to this point. So, yeah.
Love that.
You mentioned your dad, Stanley. I was going to go there next. Running back here at Duke in the late 80s. I would imagine he can give you some pointers on the football side of things after games, along with your coaches. But what sort of influence has he been on your life and helping you navigate your time here at Duke, but really your football life as a whole?
Him and my mom are just, my best friends. Growing up, I've always come to these Duke games. I've seen him play here, and from an early age, I knew that I wanted to come here, and I wanted to, continue that tradition of offensive line play. Coming, games in 2012, and from then on, just seeing the offensive line dominate, and me being moved to offensive line around that time from running back. I was a running back, but
promotion.
Yeah, promotion a little bit, but yeah, I knew that I wanted to come here and be an offensive lineman. So my dad was all for it.
If I can jump in, like when I talk to your dad or see your family at games and watch you play, the word pride kind of sticks out to me. Obviously, pride in being an offensive lineman and the different traits and the characteristics required to be good at it, but pride in Duke and what this university stands for and what this football program can accomplish and can achieve. I know the past couple of years have been lean, and we're heading in, though, to the start of ACC play, 3-1. There's energy, there's momentum behind all of this. Like when you kind of sit back, do you ever? I guess the question is, like, do you ever let yourself sit back for a second in the midst of a season and really enjoy it? Or are you totally focused on like the nitty gritty, getting in there and grinding? Or can you appreciate what's taking place in that you wanted to play football at Duke, you're doing that, and oh, by the way, you guys are playing well going into a tough stretch, but an exciting stretch of the season.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I never take this for granted. This is the best part of my life is playing football here, I would say, and I just never take it for granted. I love going on that practice field and working. I love going to that weight room and working.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the reason why we are having a success right now is because we love to play football as a team. We love to be together. We love the grind. We're really embracing it.
I feel like every position group has this. I'll preface this by saying that, but the offensive line always has like their own connection. I know you've talked about it in their own traditions, right? Thick Thursday
Yeah.
back in the day. We'll
Yeah.
talk. I know you're a cook, so we're going to talk about that coming up here in a second. But Graham was telling me he takes a lot of pride. He said it was his idea, the Dirt Devils. So take me through the process of the nickname, how you guys came up with that. Was there a vote? Was it just consensus? There's a smile, so it feels like you have some thoughts on the topic.
That name did not win any vote at all. But I will say we originally were Blue Mafia, and then no one broke it down on Blue Mafia. And then Graham was just like, I'm going to call ourselves the Dirt Devils. And, it's slowly winning people over in the offensive line room. I'm still, waiting to be persuaded, but
I can tell, yeah. What do you have? Do you have a nomination for what the name should be for the group?
I mean, if everyone's gonna buy the Dirt Devils, I'll do that.
Got
But
it.
we gotta buy it when it's over.
I mean, I picture you just driving people into the Dirt Devils is kind of, and you just leave out. It's a shortened form of that.
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of cool.
Well, it depends on what happens this weekend with the weather. It might be the Mud Devils.
Oh yeah,
Hurricane
slip
working
and
its
slide
way,
Devils. Yeah.
up the East Coast. All right, you see the two of us. Let's talk food, cooking. I've tried to get your recipe out of you. You won't give it to me. The sauce that you come up with when you're cooking. We got a guy who knows his way
Yeah.
around a recipe. But where did the love of cooking come from?
Eating.
So it's purely necessity.
Yeah.
Feeding a habit.
Yeah. I love to eat, and I love good food. So, I think I follow like a lot of food pages on Instagram, like on TikTok. So like I'll just, be scrolling through my explore page one day. I'm like, I'm gonna make that, I made some good red velvet brownies earlier, so
Where are they? Are they anywhere nearby or
gone.
gone? That's my problem with cooking is like, okay, you try to experiment, you do something, you like it. I end up like mowing through all like the portions that I was thinking I would have the whole week. Do you have that problem?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, portion control is one thing, but like, all right, so we know about the baking, we know about the barbecue, obviously ribs, brownies, red velvet. I like where we're headed. What are you pairing with that?
That's a tough question. I'd probably say mac and cheese. Give it a little creamy mix in there. I don't know.
You?
Tums.
Yeah. I think that when you put them
He's
all in,
preparing for the next day.
put them in a milkshake, and just like grind it up. Yeah.
Oh.
That helps with in-game stress too, I've heard.
Really?
Sometimes. I don't know. I just heard from somebody.
We'll look Instagram. We'll find some mac and cheese recipes. There's got to be probably 150,000 out there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You breadcrumbs on mac and cheese or no?
Nah, like
Just
cheese on
straight-
top.
Okay.
Yeah.
I take it any way I can get it.
I'm getting hungry.
Really?
So
Yeah.
we're going to do some rapid fire stuff before we get out of here and then play a little game, password game. Jordan's gotten the best score so far. He's gotten 10 out of 10. Some would say he had the most favorable category, but we'll spin the wheel of destiny and see where you land. But first, want to get to know you a little bit better with some Q&A. Rapid fire questions, open ACC play under the lights, 7:30 kickoff here at Wallace Wade Stadium against Virginia. Who knows if it's going to be raining? Who knows if it's going to be windy? But it should be a fun night for football. What's your favorite part of a night game?
Fans and anticipation for sure. Definitely.
How about your favorite NFL player?
Lamar Jackson.
Ravens fan?
Definitely.
Well, I'm always curious what your guys' hobbies are because you have literally very little free time between school and football and everything that goes into it. But if you're not doing one of those, what are you doing?
Sleeping.
Great answer. Other than not having a nap, is there anything you're allergic to?
Cold water.
Cold water.
Yeah, I actually iced my arm yesterday, and had a breakout.
Was it like a hive?
Yeah.
It's like, I think that's called cold-induced urticaria of some kind. It's like a cold-induced hive. I actually had the same thing.
Really?
So like I couldn't ice my knee because after I'd put the bag of ice on it, there'd be an outline exactly of the bag of ice raised, and it'd be hotter than it was
Yeah.
before. Is that what you have?
Yeah.
All right, we got to talk. We can figure
Because
it
you said
out.
you were telling me one time you cold tub is how you first found out, right?
Yeah. Passing out in the locker room.
Yeah, because it can actually have an impact. Like some people have it really bad. They were getting way
No,
off
this
track,
is good.
but to where like cold air induces it in their lungs, and you can have a difficulty breathing. Mine used to always get it on the steering wheel when it was cold. Like my hands would start to break out. So, okay. And I've got theories and some ways around it. We'll have to talk offline.
Do the after show. We'll
Exactly. That's like 60 minutes, how it like says, if you want more, you can tune in. Yeah.
I know people think offensive linemen and they think quantity when you guys are at the training table or getting something. We talk about food a bunch, but when you look at your guys in the offensive line room, who's got like the most sophisticated palate? Who likes fancy food in there?
I don't know.
Like who's getting a lamb chop with Dave with like a nice
mint jelly?
Maybe Brian Foley or Graham Barton, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you know.
Talk to both of those
Mostly
guys.
just-
Get them on the list, please, David, to interview. How about your best football memory at Duke?
Best football memory at Duke. I would say our max out squad day this year was amazing. I think that was like what showed where the program is right now and what we built.
And what was that? Just like toughness, energy,
A lot of energy. You know, people
Was
love
that
it.
the WWE day or was
Yeah.
that a different day?
That was that day.
Did you go costume?
I did.
Oh, who we got?
I just kind of like just put on some stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. He was the pit master, barbecue guy.
That's really cool to see.
That's
the
cool
videos
though.
you guys
Like
do.
when you hear a player say a non-game situation, like that's really neat that it's about the work that goes in to get you ready for everything else. And that's the kind of litmus test that you use to see where everybody is. It's neat.
Good stuff. Okay. Money's not an option. Somewhere you've never been before. What's the dream vacation spot?
I love the mountains, but I don't know. Probably, I guess I've never been in the Rocky Mountains, so Rocky Mountains.
All right. Talk to John Denver about that, right?
I've been there. Pikes Peak is really nice. I have family in Colorado Springs, so you love it.
Yeah. What about your pregame routine? Anything in particular that you stick to?
No.
Just stay away from the cold tub.
Yeah. Please.
For sure, an afternoon nap would have been a part of the pre.
Yeah.
If there's time, I definitely do.
Yeah. Got a night game coming up.
I guess I'll watch like a movie. Like before last game, I watched Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Before that, I watched Creed. So I might watch Rocky this week. You know.
All right. It's good.
Yeah.
Dig a little deeper, starting to find out.
Good job.
So
Yeah.
what's your favorite spot in Durham?
I would just say West Campus. Really, I love Duke. So.
How about the person with the biggest influence in your life?
My mom, my dad, just two
Yeah.
people, definitely.
For sure. Cool to see how tight you guys are. All right, you ready? See how you stack up against the guys? We're going to play the game. We're going to spin the wheel. Dave gets really nervous when we start doing this because
David,
it's
you
a
call
lot
it
of
the
pressure
wheel
on
of
him.
destiny. It's like the wheel of misfortune. I think
No.
it's
So
more
there's
when you
4
call it.
categories. Try to get as many out of 10 right in 2 minutes. So you spin it to figure out your category. This is really determinative of if you've got a shot or not. But Waters has the best score. He's 10 for 10.
Oh, wow. We got CFB mascots is what it landed on. This is a
Back-to-back
first.
weeks?
Oh, back-to-back. I blacked out last week. I promise I will keep it to one-word guesses. I got a lot of grief from our listeners that I did not adhere to the policies last time. Oh, my gosh.
So these are all college football mascots. I will say there might be one that's not a college football mascot, but they're all college mascots. I wrote these last night now that I think about that. But they are all college mascots. Dave hasn't seen them, which will make this really fun.
This is terrifying. Okay.
You got 2 minutes.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. And I will say,
He feels really
yeah,
confident.
he's like looking at you. I don't feel good. Talk about looking in somebody's eyes. I will say, like, there is benefit to skipping because we can come back to it later, and I'll give you a second clue.
Right.
So here we go. Yeah. Okay. Just let's get this going.
Go.
Colorado.
Bison.
Shoot. We gotta go to the next one.
Buffalo.
Yeah, there you
Buffalo.
go. Perfect. Temple.
Owl.
Bama.
Elephant. Roll Tide.
Yes.
So what's the color?
Oh, Crimson Tide.
Crimson Tide. Yeah, Roll Tide's good. Oregon,
Duck.
Texas,
Longhorn.
Philadelphia.
Eagle.
Oh, oh gosh. You're a terrible person. David makes these up.
We got a minute.
I know the school. Jose.
Not Padres.
I think that's
Remember, you can pass if you need to.
Pass.
okay. Iowa.
Hawkeyes.
Virginia.
Cavalier.
I was told I can't do like a school abbreviation. Boston.
Eagle.
No.
Boston.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
30 seconds.
skip. So we're back to what I said was Jose.
Trojans. San Jose State Trojans.
I'm gonna
Spartans.
do. This is impossible.
15 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, how about skip this one? We'll go back to the other one. The first thing that I said was Boston.
Bruins.
Yes, perfect. Bruins was
You
the
got 10
answer.
seconds.
And then the final one, Jose, we're going to go with San Jose.
San Jose State.
Bank.
Aztecs.
How about blank split? What would the word before split?
Banana.
Banana. And then what's that?
All right, keep going.
Okay. Banana, and then
We're not getting
what?
it. But I wanna see
What
how
does
you work
somebody
your way
tell
through
you
this.
when you're lazy?
It's one of the best mascots in the country. I think it's UC Santa Cruz.
It's
is what
Santa
you're
Cruz.
looking-
I was like
yeah.
San Jose. I messed up. UC Santa Cruz banana slugs. The banana slug.
Were we ever going to get there?
No.
I don't even know what would you have done. So I like
Well, you can't have
split.
them all be easy.
No, I know banana slug. I knew it was some California school. It was not San Jose. I went Jose.
I would have tried to go banana. I would have tried to skip the whole school and then tried to go like I don't know what I would have done.
The word slug really made me nervous to go that way.
Yeah, so.
Wow, really good. 9 of them.
9 out of 10, strong.
9 out of 10. Good job.
Appreciate it.
He's like, what the heck just happened?
I've never heard of that.
A banana
school.
slug. I do know I don't want to meet a banana slug in my life. Those things are huge, and I'm not into slugs. So no thanks.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
But thank you for playing.
Appreciate it. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
I have a feeling nothing's going to be worse than this. So
Yeah.
you're all set. Rain or shine on Saturday, you'll have a lot more fun.
You have to
For
let
sure.
us know when the Dirt Devils thing really hits home for you.
That's right.
It feels like it's processed right now.
Step by step.
Still working on it.
Now give me
Appreciate it.
some Tums.
Yep.
All right, we're back. David Shoemate, Dave Harding, and John Roth rocking the sporty Duke Radio Network polo.
It's a throwback.
Yeah.
Old clothing in my closet.
Looks
There
good.
Do we
go.
get one of those? It's not, how
I think
you got to be around a little bit longer.
You got to receive like a gold card or something.
It's not the AARP card, right? That's-
No,
okay,
no,
all
of
right,
course
thanks.
not. Although I think that comes with some
Yeah.
very good benefits.
I think it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
I'll
like
wait.
the super seniors. We're in our 6th year. We get that extra eligibility because of COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. That's the thing. I get scared when doing our games now to call anybody a senior because who knows what that even means, and they've been around forever. It's been a little bit of a
Yeah,
challenge.
6-year players, like they've graduated from at least one school and they're
Yeah.
working on a 2nd degree, and
Now you just call everybody, "Hey, you," and hope for the best.
Well, now I'm interested. We'll talk about non-conference play in Virginia here in a second, but feels like super senior should come with the privileges. As someone who played, like, what would be your privilege? Is it like an off day during the week, like they do vet rest in the NFL? Would it be no spring? Like, what would your super senior privilege be?
I mean, I do know that both of those things are real, depending on the program that you're playing in. Even for like a 5th-year senior, like that is a true thing. Like I really never practiced on Sundays throughout my 5th year because my body hurt and I'd been around a long time and I didn't need to. At least I probably needed to, but the film would say otherwise, So And I like Kenny Ananecki was a 6-year guy that was kind of before all the COVID stuff happened, and I don't think practiced in spring. And you're always first in line for food if you want to, because nobody's going to challenge you for being around this.
I would think you get to pick what's on the food line there.
I would hope so.
As that person.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
people just might be dangerous with you, but that'd be okay.
Oh, I would have picked the best. Yeah,
I know.
lobster tails and fillets, you name it.
I digress.
Don't
Let's
we
talk
all?
about non-conference play. I kind of want to frame it as expectations versus reality. And it may be hard because I know we talked before the season. I don't know if you guys had many expectations. There were so many unknowns. But sitting here at the end of September, first game in October is coming up this weekend against Virginia. What do you make of it? 3-1, 3 straight wins to start the season. I guess, John, I'll start with you. A game effort at Kansas, had a chance to tie it late in the game, had the football. But to me, there's a lot to like through the first month.
Oh, absolutely. I think expectations, I would say this probably for any ACC school, when you go into your season, I think you expect to win any games you have against an FCS team. I think you should expect to win any games you have against a group of 5 team, with maybe a rare exception somewhere along the line. And so Duke did that. They won their FCS game, and they won their group of 5 game against Temple, and then played pretty well against the 2 Power 5 opponents. And so I don't know if we expected them to come out 4-0 against that kind of a schedule, but played very well against both the Power 5 opponents. And I think so. I think that's a good dose of reality and kind of met expectations. And going 3-1 right now, it's the same record Duke had last year going into ACC play, when they did actually lose to a group of 5 team, but had 2 Power 5 wins. So I think they've done probably more than most people expected, because they had a chance to go 4-0. So I think it's definitely been a good start, and I think they've met or exceeded a lot of people's expectations.
Yeah, I'd say they exceeded mine. I've been impressed with the start right out the gate against Temple and the shutout, and being able to overcome quite a few different game scenarios. I thought the fight in the fourth quarter, winning the fourth quarter against Kansas, was although the final outcome wasn't what anybody wanted, it was a good sign of the progress that this team has made. I mean, you talked about the questions coming in, like, did we have expectations? You're right. We did this preseason podcast. It's like, who's going to be the quarterback? Who's he going to be throwing to? Who's going to be the running back? And those are just some of the questions on offense. And a lot of those questions have been answered with some clarity, gusto. I mean, you've got a very good picture now of what Duke has. And I mean, if anything, the fact that there was a letdown going on the road to play in a packed stadium against Kansas, and to not go 4-0 being a disappointment, is saying something about where these expectations have shifted. And now, as we head into a Coastal Division play and ACC play, it's like, okay, like there's some momentum. There's something to go be taken now. And I think it's a mad dash and an all-out effort to rack up some wins in conference play, something that the Blue Devils haven't done in 2 years, and go get it done.
And how fitting, in the final years of divisions, at least through the first 4 weeks, the Coastal looks like it's going to be fun again.
It does seem that way.
It is wide open.
The only team in the Coastal with an ACC win so far is Virginia Tech, because they beat Boston College. Virginia Tech has had some shaky performances. Everyone knows that loss to Old Dominion kind of came unraveled against West Virginia in the fourth quarter last Thursday night. You got Georgia Tech. Coaching change there earlier this week. Jeff Collins is out, as is the athletic director, so a little bit topsy-turvy. They're next for Duke after Virginia. Virginia, I think everyone expected this high-powered offense to really be clicking, but it feels like it's been a little bit of a grind here at the outset. We'll talk about the Cavaliers in depth in a second. They're coming off a loss to Syracuse. North Carolina certainly can score, but we saw the defensive issues still remaining against Notre Dame over the weekend. I mean, Miami against Middle Tennessee State, that didn't work. Tyler Van Dyke gets benched in the second. I mean,
Pittsburgh isn't perfect.
No,
yeah, I mean,
the Coastal is
chaotic.
Yes.
And I'm here for it.
and not to mention all the new coaches.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're starting to feel that. I mean, people, Mario Cristobal down in Miami, they just assume it's going to be a seamless transition. It's hard to win, no matter where you are, no matter what the talent you have. And a lot of these coaches are trying to instill completely new systems, ways of doing things. And I just think it spells more than anything opportunity for Duke, opportunity for the team that is able to operate the cleanest, communicate the best on the field. And it's an equalizer. I mean, Duke's got challenges. There's no doubt. They've got inexperience at some very important parts on the team. They've shown, a difficulty with certain areas. And we can get into that, but it shows also, though, that despite your warts, you've got a chance as you head into the rest of the season.
Opportunity is a great word for what awaits everybody in the Coastal right now. I mean, anybody could win the Coastal this year. Didn't a few years ago, didn't we have like 7 straight years with seven different teams winning it? And it seems like it's one of those years again. I mean, you can look right now, and I don't think you could look at any team and say Duke can't possibly beat them. Right. I mean, you could beat any team on there, and any team could beat you, but that makes it wide open to me, and that's a really exciting race for the last year of division play.
And how about just as chaotic as the Coastal is, let's not leave the Atlantic out of this, because right now looking in the catbird seat is Syracuse, and they're about to go 5-0 likely because they've got an FCS opponent, I believe, this weekend. 5-0 Syracuse with at least 2, maybe 3 ACC wins under their belt. It's crazy.
2, but both of those were at the Dome, so they've still got 4
road games.
Okay,
yeah, but I'm just saying this is the conference that keeps on giving from a storyline standpoint.
No, and it'd be kind of you mentioned the Atlantic. They got some interesting games in the next few weeks. NC State's at Clemson this week. The following week, I think NC State and Florida State together, Wake Forest and Florida State. So you're going to see some things shake out in that division pretty quickly here, I think, over the next month or so in terms of who the front runner is going to be. And to Ross' point, we may be slicing turkey trying to figure out who's going to have a chance to be in the Coastal, and there might be 6 or 7 teams still in the mix when you get to the last weekend of November.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, though, it cannot be stated enough the impact of the non-conference schedule to set up the Blue Devils, if we're looking at Duke in particular, as they head into what is sure to be a wild ride and a lot of uncertainty continuing. And talk about slice and turkey, not knowing. I mean, I agree with you, but I also think, given the Blue Devils' performance, John, to your point about being in just about all of these games, there's a confidence, there's a belief now, which is so powerful in that locker room in any game that they're in the rest of the year, that they can go out, compete, and that they should and believe that they will win regardless of who the opponent is.
And to me, one of the reasons for that is a couple of the trends that have been developing during these first 4 games. Like, for one, taking care of the football. Okay, Duke's been a turnover machine the last couple of years. First 4 games, non-conference games, 2 turnovers is all they've committed. 2 interceptions, and those weren't even really – there was a miscommunication on one, and one was like a tip. So, and they haven't lost a fumble yet. So that's a huge thing. When you have a chance to win the turnover battle in any game, they've got value for the football right now. They haven't forced that many on defense, but they have been winning the turnover battle. That to me is a huge thing, and also the fact that they are ready to go from the jump every single game. Like, they come out and hit the field, ready to score, ready to stop, ready to take control of the game from the very beginning. I think those 2 things are huge, and the fact that they've also started now showing explosiveness in the wide receiver group. Like, they've got now guys who are making chunk plays in the wide receiver room. And you don't actually know which guy it's going to be in any particular game, because 4 or 5 different guys have come up with huge plays on that end of the field. So I think there's some certain things that have been developing in the non-conference game, not just the confidence, but things that have led to the confidence that can help them when they get down to the ACC play.
I thought it was really interesting to the point on ball security and winning the turnover battle. Duke did that against Kansas, still don't win the game, but Coach Elko earlier in the week said, we're not in the game in the 4th quarter if it's not for that factor. So still plays a vital part in the overall equation, even though maybe it doesn't directly result in a win every single time.
It's an interesting way to think about the margin for error, which is always so small. Well, one way you can make it bigger is not turning it over. You can also shrink it pretty quickly when you start turning it over. And we talk about Middle Tennessee State beating Miami. that's the last time the Blue Devils went on the road and didn't have a turnover. So you got to go 3 years back to 2019. So
Wow.
impressive what they did in Kansas, not turning the football over. All right, let's talk about the game this weekend. ACC opener. Everyone's excited. Who knows if it's going to be raining, not raining? We'll figure that out in the next
John's
few
concerned.
days or so, as the
Here come
hurricane
the sidelines.
forecasts are all over the place right now. But regardless of the weather, it's a fascinating matchup because I think two teams that come in, Virginia had expectations, I think, that were off the charts to start the season. You had new head coach Tony Elliott coming in from Clemson, all the success they had there and still have there with Dabo Swinney. And you think about all the pieces that were coming back on offense, and Brendan Armstrong and Keaton Thompson and Wicks and these guys that have been there for 20 years. I'm just kidding. They've been there for
Yeah.
it feels like
No, you're
But
right.
6.
Maybe 18. Yeah, exactly.
And it just looked like what they're doing a year ago. I mean, it was 35 points a game. They were scoring touchdowns at will. The number for Armstrong were ridiculous, 31 touchdowns through the air. And the defense had their struggles, so you figured out, okay, Virginia will come out this year and outscore people again. And it's been just the opposite. The defense is a whole lot better, and the offense hasn't found their footing yet. And I'll start with you, Dave. Which is more surprising, that they've gotten it together defensively so quickly, or that the offense is only averaging 18 points a game after putting up 35 points a game a year ago?
To me, it's the offense with all the pieces that they have, and obviously the most important being Brennan Armstrong. To have the drop off from what you had a season before is remarkable, because defensively, I mean, even with Bronco and the defensive system that they had, and I know there's some new faces, they had some success. Last year was somewhat of an anomaly. Go back a couple years, I mean, their secondary was always pretty effective. They've got some good length, some good pieces there. I just think also when you think about how a season normally plays out, and usually it's maybe a little bit more condensed to the front end and during a preseason, the offense is the last piece to click. One of my concerns is, okay, when is this Virginia offense going to click? Because they have those pieces. They've got all those guys. And when you watch on tape, they're close. They've got people in position. Maybe they don't make the play, or maybe they get behind the sticks and they're not on schedule offensively. When they can figure that out and gain some more familiarity and an understanding of their offensive system, they've got what it takes to be really good. And you pair that with a defense that's improved from a season ago, you got a dangerous team. So that just adds to the overall craziness of the Coastal. If you're a Duke fan, you hope that they don't click this weekend, and the weather might have a factor in a lot of that. But they have definitely the offensive woes are what's most surprising to me.
Yeah, the quarterback they have is Brennan is unbelievable. I mean, last year led the ACC in total offense, even though he was the third team quarterback in the ACC, all ACC teams, led the league in total offense and lit up the Blue Devils when they played in Charlottesville. I think he threw 45 passes for 364 yards. So he can do it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of what's going on at the next level with another really great quarterback, Russell Wilson, who all-pro with Seattle. He's moved to Denver, and he's got a new head coach. He's got an offensive-minded head coach, but he hasn't really got untracked, I guess, in his first year with the Broncos. But, you know that that's going to happen at some point. And to me, that Brendan Armstrong and their offense is going to get clicking at some point this year. And, yeah, if you're a Duke fan, you hope it's not this week.
Yeah, that's a really good comp.
Well, and I think, going to rely on your experience here being an offensive lineman, there's no question this is a very young group up front for Virginia, and I would imagine that's been one of the reasons they're trying to find their rhythm offensively. When you're along the offensive line and you're still trying to find your footing, what is that relationship like with some experienced quarterbacks and wide receivers and trying to get everything together? And John mentioned the new coaching staff as well, and the scheme might be a part of it, but I imagine that's tricky when you're kind of locked into your own battle as a youngster up front and the bullets are flying, so to speak. How tricky can that be? Everyone thinks it's just easy to move things offensively when it's working well, but when it gets offline, it's really hard to find it back on the rails.
Yeah, it is. And when you've got pieces like Armstrong and Thompson and the different people around receiver-wise, you've got like 200 level class going on with guys that are just struggling to make it through their first semester of college. And the breadth of knowledge, you know how confident you are walking around as a senior around campus. You know all the shortcuts and everything. And your first day on campus freshman year, you can't find the bathroom. You're just hoping not to get run over by the school bus. Like that's kind of how it is. You are holding on for dear life. And when you've got people that are able to operate athletically, but also especially mentally and in their understanding of the game at another level, there does become some frustration. There's a friction that can emerge. And I think it's going to be important for Virginia not to tell them what to do, or certainly don't want them to find success just yet, but in simplifying some things along the offensive line, playing into what they can do a little bit better. Because right now, those guys are holding on, trying to do their best. And I think you've got a belief in Armstrong and the rest of his receiving core of this is what we should be doing. And those two things clash, creating some kind of conflict.
I mean, they had problems with sacks a year ago, allowing them, and they seem to have popped up again this year, allowing
40
12
sacks.
Yeah, 40 a year ago, and
so
allowing
3 a game already.
12. Yeah. So be interested to see some opportunities along the defensive line for those guys to get after it after week at Kansas because of the scheme where you couldn't really attack because you're going to get out of a rush lane. I'm sure those guys are chomping at the bit to get into the backfield. When you flip it over and look at the Virginia defense, it'll be interesting to see how Riley Leonard and company attack it. Virginia's dealt with some injuries in the secondary. And, John, they're going to be without the first half. They're starting middle linebacker Nick Jackson, who went out with the targeting penalty. That feels like an awfully important piece to the puzzle this weekend.
Yeah, he was an All-ACC player last year. I mean, he's a great defensive player, and it's always unfortunate when you have to miss part of a game for that reason. But maybe that's somewhere Duke can initially attack and help them get off to a good start when they're going against the Virginia defense without probably their premier player.
Yeah, their defensive line has a little more twitch, a little more speed than a defensive line that we've seen to this point in the season. There were some struggles last week protecting off the edge. And depending on what the weather's like, if it does, pose an opportunity to throw the ball and to drop back to pass, how does the Blue Devil offensive line, in particular the tackles, handle that type of challenge? I think from a running game perspective, it bodes well. They can kind of use their speed and move them out of the way, kind of use their momentum against them. But in the pass protection game, Riley Leonard's going to have to keep his head on a swivel because that did play a factor in some of the Blue Devils' woes in moving the football at times last week against Kansas.
And when you look at the stat sheet, small sample size, we're only 4 games in, particularly if you look at Virginia against Power 5 teams. The defense has been much improved, but they've also been very opportunistic. They've been creating turnovers. Syracuse turned it over a bunch in the Friday night game, and they're also really stout in the red zone. Syracuse got to the red zone 5 times, 4 field goals and 1 touchdown. The Orange could never really get away, even though they won it 22-20. And how important is that going to be? We'll start to wrap this up this weekend. We saw it a couple times against Kansas. We saw a false start inside the 10 that led to an opportunity maybe for a touchdown, turned into a field goal. The other field goal for the Blue Devils obviously was right before halftime. Didn't have a chance to get too deep down the field. But when you get into that area of the field, 20 and marching in to get touchdowns instead of field goals, especially against a Virginia team that, David, I can feel you thinking they are a sleeping giant offensively.
Yeah, it's critical, and it's even more challenging when you look at the secondary for Virginia and the length that they have, their ability to cover ground. When it does get condensed, it's going to be challenging. Winning those one-on-one battles at wide receiver that Duke has been doing a much better job of this season becomes even more challenging when you've got people that are as big as the Virginia secondary is. And you just have to find a way of not shooting yourself in the foot. And you mentioned some of those penalties. That was what's so killer. And the miscues. Duke had the most that we've seen all year against Kansas. I get it was on the road. Defensively, there were a lot of miscues. It was a challenging offense to understand and to prepare for. But there is also an element when you're coached to look at that and say, we've got to get this fixed. And I do feel that sense of urgency and talking with Coach Elko and certainly expect them to address some of those during the week in practice.
Well, I'm also curious what you feel about just the fact that Duke hasn't beaten Virginia in so long. Okay, Virginia's won 7 in a row over Duke. And I want to, just from your standpoint, how you feel that plays in the locker room. I know with the guys that are back, particularly last year, that was probably the worst game Duke had all last year. It was a 48-0. It was 34-0 at halftime. Duke had a ton of turnovers, like 4. They had a ton of penalties that were never really in the game. It's one of those games where stats like said nothing about the game because the teams ran the same number of plays, had the same time of possession, and it was 48-0. But so for guys coming back, how much is that resonating and just trying to kind of get off the snide against Virginia?
Well, when I was playing, Virginia was probably a bigger rivalry to the team than Carolina was. My parents disliked Carolina far more than I did, and I was always gunning for Virginia just because we were so similar. Both kind of disrespected, I think, along the way, and there's just something about the Virginia guys that I didn't like, to be honest. And what is the attitude of this team against an opponent that you have almost gone a decade? It's hard to believe without beating. You've got to take that personally. And I don't get the sense that this is a group in Duke that's looking to pass up an opportunity to go out and fight, an opportunity to go out and kind of prove who this new look team is. So I can't imagine that motivation is going to be any different. And confidence, I really think it's so interesting in listening to Mike Elko talk. He says he talks about about the Duke program. Like, we haven't beat Virginia in 7 years. But then there is just this sense of that we stops and there's a new Duke this year. And it's maybe more of a feeling than what he says. And I think the feeling is probably what the guys in the locker room feel of, okay, that 7-year streak, it is history. It certainly has happened. It's a factor, but it's about Duke now, in the now. And I think they're fully immersed in that.
And you mentioned that newness. I think that was evidence. You're always curious what happens when a team and a coaching staff has one not go their way. It was a defiant group after the game. I mean, not looking for a silver lining, not looking for any sort of moral pat on the back. You fought hard. I mean, Riley Leonard talked immediately about stuff that needed to get cleaned up. I mean,
Riley Leonard said to John
in
Ross,
game, he
we
said,
should have won that game.
He said, we're the better team.
Yeah.
We should have won. Like, okay.
I haven't heard confidence like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't take it to be, and you were right there,
Yeah,
as like cocky or arrogant. It was just that if we play the way we should, we win that game.
Matter of fact, like this is what I believe, and he believes it.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out this weekend. Should be fun under the lights. Bring a raincoat. Be loud. 7:30 kickoff at home for the ACC opener. Duke and Virginia. Looking forward to it. And we'll talk to you guys next week.